Yeah, I'll be happy to take that. I'm on the board that's supporting it. It is not a superconducting super collider. What it is, it's called the Facility for Rare Isotope Beams, a FRIB.
All right.
At Michigan State. It's a $550 million project. Right. We're not in the super collider business in the United States anymore. They built the Hadar Collider on the Swiss-French border in Europe, and you know it's going to put us all down a black hole, if you read that. No, that's our entire congressional delegation, Republican and Democrat, has signed a document, presented it to the Department of Energy, who is going to make this decision that this should come to Michigan State. The competition, Judge, as you correctly point out, is the Argonne National Laboratory outside of Chicago. Others are out of it right now. It's going to be either Argonne or MSU. Luana Simon, the president of MSU, has done a superb job in putting together people to advocate for this. And if you want to see a bipartisan group, you should see that group of us when we've gotten together. So we're doing the best we can do. MSU presented last week to the Department of Energy. The Department of Energy visited MSU last week, and hopefully they'll see that MSU has the land, they have the ability, they have the history. MSU produces the second
highest, the land and the history.
The second highest number of nuclear engineers in the United States, second only to MIT. So they're in the running. They're doing everything they can. I had a long conversation with President Simon last Saturday, just before MSU cleaned my school's clock.
Get another.
It's a good thing it wasn't after the game. Anyhow, they're all over it. They're doing the best that they can do. It would be a real feather in the hat of MSU if they could get it, and they have everybody, including the University of Michigan, working with
behind them. That's great to hear.
To try to get
Brewer.
this.
Okay. One of only two.
Mr. Brewer?
Mark Brewer.
I don't really have anything to
No,
add.
I want to hold Mark Brewer's feet to the fire on another aspect of this question.
Okay.
One of only two nuclear physicists in the country, in Congress, is a congressman from where we are now,
Right.
Vern Ehlers. Would we have a better chance of getting this facility under a President John McCain, with his close ties to Joe SCHWARZ, and a Republican nuclear physicist from Grand Rapids in the Congress?
Good question, because obviously Senator Obama is from Illinois, where the Argonne lab
That was
is
going to be
located.
my next point.
Look, and as a senator from Illinois, he can do nothing less than advocate for his state. So nobody should hold that against him. I believe if he's president, though, you have a broader responsibility at that point. What is in the best national interest, not necessarily in the interest of the state that you just represent in the Senate. But so far on this question, there's no question he has been a strong advocate for Argonne.
Right. The other little twist on this is that this decision is supposed to be made prior to the time the new president takes office. By the Department of Energy. So we'll see. MSU's got the full court press on, as well they should.
Hopefully you're
Question,
right.
we're getting low on time, so let's try to keep our answers succinct. First of all, okay, Mark, both of you guys have talked a lot about job retraining. This is a question from the audience. Several times in the last year, funds for the No Worker Left Behind program have run out. Now, how will Michigan retrain the unemployed workforce we have now with another 30,000 plus people about to be dumped on it, and what are we going to retrain them for?
Well, the No Worker Left Behind, as I understand, that's an initiative of Governor Granholm, and she has done, I think, a very good job under difficult circumstances of finding funding for that. Much of it originates with the federal government, and they've been able to restructure some programs and make more money available. Again, I think a number of the programs that we've talked about in terms of Senator Obama's initiatives will create new jobs, particularly in the area of energy. And so I think we can look to those kinds of programs to provide funding in that area. I mean, I think that's one area. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. Here in Michigan, we didn't get into this problem overnight, but it's going to take a long while to do that. Another area where the governor, I know, has placed particular emphasis is there's a growing number of jobs in the area of health care in this state, as there is nationally, and we've got to find more funding there. The governor, again, has done a very creative job of finding funding to educate, for example, more nurses in this state. So I think those are the kind of programs we've got to look to try to deal with this, what appears to be a more serious problem about to emerge.
Senator Schwartz, would a McCain administration make funds available to Michigan for that purpose?
I would hope so, and I would hope our congressional delegation went after them hammer and tongs, whatever is available to fund these programs. The delegation can do no less. We'll simply have to see what happens. And, you know, I agree with Mark that we do the best we possibly can and act as aggressively as we can to bring the money into the state.
Very quickly, Paul ISELY, what kind of jobs would we be retraining these people for?
Well, at least on the west side of the state here, we're looking at alternative energy and medical health care issues, and that's where we've been putting our money. On the other side of the state, we're looking a little bit more at software and technologies along that end.
This gentleman here, sir.
My name is Robert Trost. My question is directed to Mr. COSCARELLI. What impact would reliance on wind turbines, windmills, have on birds in flight?
I think it depends on where these turbines are located. If they're in established migratory pathways in the nearshore areas, which they exist in the Mississippi Flyway and in the Great Lakes. I think a fair amount of studies have been done trying to answer those questions. There are some impacts, again, depending on the size, the speed of these, the location, how often the wind is blowing. I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into it. Maybe I can sum it up just saying there is impacts to bird populations, bat populations as well, and other birds. So maybe I'll just leave it at that. There are impacts. It's one of the first things that are studied when we're talking about both nearshore placement of the turbines and offshore. That's one area right now which will need greater study among many issues for the siting and placement of these turbines in the Great Lakes region. But there are impacts.
This gentleman here.
Yeah, the Great Lakes Compact set a good precedent for a regional and bipartisan application for controlling our natural resources. I was wondering if we can use a model like that in another direction, and instead of worrying about natural resources we have, looking at our resources of wind and biomass in the Great Lakes region and using it something similar to it to keeping coal out of the Great Lakes area. Because as it was mentioned before, 93% of our energy comes from outside the Great Lakes area, and most of that being coal.
Let me try to understand your question. The Great Lakes compacted limited water exports.
Right.
What are you suggesting we need to do with coal?
Have another compact for the Great Lakes region that said we have a timetable that we actually phase out coal in the Great Lakes area in support of using the natural resources we already have, like wind and biomass.